Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast, aka the Pup List. We're a Green Bay Packers fan podcast that brings you topical and relevant Packers news, along with their most humble, subjective opinions. This is episode 302. We're recording this on a Thursday. Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. The Packers offseason continues. The NFL coaching carousel is in full swing. I'm your host, Tay, and joining me on the video tonight is our one and only...
Tay, no, I got it. Oh, look, it works properly tonight, Tay. I don't know what screwed up, but what up, Tay? How we doing on a Thursday? It's a Thursday, but it's a Friday. It's a Wednesday. It's a Tuesday. I don't know, Tay, but I'm still unemployed. So you tell me how you doing. And we just came out of the polar vortex. You're a little under the weather, Tay. How you doing with regard to these NFC Championship games coming up? And how'd you feel divisional round went for you, Tay?
Oof. Yeah, the polar vortex here, at least the continuation of it, it seems like it's back every couple days. That's getting a little annoying, but we can talk about that a little later. I was really shocked to see the Lions fall to the Commanders. That was nuts. I'm still in shock. Not sure what to think about that, but what happened to the Lions, man? Thought they were the juggernaut, but that's just crazy to me. And to see the Commanders and the Eagles in the championship, I just don't know what to think about the Commanders. I really hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to them, throughout the season. Kind of like, oh yeah, the new rookie quarterback, he's great. But I just never really paid attention. Didn't think they were going to do anything. But now they're in the NFC Championship. That's nuts. So congratulations to those guys. I still think Philly's going to win, but maybe we can discuss our predictions later for those games. But obviously, Bills, Chiefs, awesome matchup. Can't wait for the Bills to dominate. I want them to win so bad. I'm so sick of the Chiefs. I think everyone's on board with that. But yeah, I'd love to see the Bills go. Just give it to them. Just do it. So I'm
there with you, Tay.
Hopefully we can take those games in this weekend and have the favorable outcomes. But like you mentioned, yeah, I am under the weather a little bit, so I apologize if I don't sound as normal as I usually do. But
just a little more velvety, Tay.
Just a little more velvety, but
finally sound better. Like you need to be sick all the time. That's what I would say. But
hey, well, something else that's going around, Ren, is especially in the NFC North, is optimism.
There's always winners of the offseason, Tay. We know who dominates the NFC North in the offseason year to year, Tay. And it is our friends to the south, our frenemies, the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears. Once again, Tay, we're not even in February, and they've already won the offseason, Tay. Yeah. Again, how do they do it?
They're champs.
After year after year, Tay. They just dominate us. They kick our ass with excitement about what is to become for their football team down in Chicagoland. And do they have a coach? I know he was the number one sought-after guy in the hiring season this year for new coaches in the NFL. No doubt he was the wanted man. But you brought it up, so we're going to talk about it. That was one of my last topics, but let's get to Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears. Really putting Matt LaFleur to the, just pandering to the Bears-Packer rivalry, paying compliments to his former coach, Dan Campbell, even though he kind of left acrimoniously out the door. And then also Kevin O'Connell out in Minnesota. And then just, I really like being Matt LaFleur twice a year. Doesn't pay him compliments, just, obviously he's pandering to the fans, doing the thing. And then he's got this terrible, goofy, doesn't know how to act in front of media grin. Like, this guy just doesn't rub me as head coach right off the jump, Tay. And as others have put it throughout the course of the week, within a 5-year span, 3/4 of all NFL head coaches turn over. So if they think Ben Johnson is the savior. This is a guy who also was reluctant to take a job the last 2 years because he
Yeah.
was going to win one with the Lions. Well, good on you, Chicago. He's got to deal with Ryan Pace and the McCaskies and that weird whole thing. Hopefully he doesn't swear because we know Joey told us
Yeah.
you cannot even be a curse word guy as the coach of the Chicago Bears down in Hallis Hall. So I know he did the fist bump with Caleb walking into Hallis Hall, all that crap. Man, if there was anything that gave me nerd shivers and just complete like eye roll over the back of my head and then full around, it was this Ben Johnson presser for the Chicago Bears. Like,
Yeah.
my God, Tay, like, are you kidding me? Really? They do this again? Like last year, I know Joey was over the moon. They got Caleb. They got a Dunze. They're building this thing. It's great. Look at that wide receiver room. How can a quarterback come into a better situation than what a rookie quarterback in Chicago is coming into? I mean, all these narratives we had to hear over and over again. And yeah, the Bears fans in our feelings all preseason and then right before the season jumps. Like, my God, like Chicago fans, we warned Joey when it happened. Just temper the expectation. And now we're going to ask you to do that again because you guys jumped the ship, jumped the shark so quickly. It's just at this point, it's kind of sad. Like, okay, Ben, yeah, and like national folks today, we're talking. Yeah, let's put this one up week 1 because I want to beat the Bears' ass into the ground. I want Matt LaFleur to take Ben Johnson's weird smile. He's like, like just
Hey, that's pretty good.
I said Packer rivalry stuff. I'm your new champion. Like, it just seemed so disingenuous, but he had to do it. It was just sad, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. Like good old, Bart Scott me. Can't wait. Like, oh my God. I'm just licking my chops to kick the living hell, as usual, out of the Chicago Bears. What's that you say?
This is great stuff. I mean, trying to look at it from a Bears perspective, it's hard, right? I know, never going to happen truly, but like this is the guy you wanted, right? That was alluded to mid-season. Like he was like, the best offensive coach out there this year, slated to be like, you got to get him. And then they do get him. And it's like eureka moment. Like everything is fine. It's, it's the savior is here. And it's like, how many times has this record been played? And I would love to get, and we'll talk to Joey about it. I kind of know what he'll.
We're gonna have a hell of a good time with Joey about this day. It's gonna be my pleasure.
I mean, he got on
Johnson hire. Yeah,
he got on this last time and said they're gonna go hire Ben Johnson, jokingly, but he's at that time he was like, that's not gonna fix your problem. And I bet you exactly that. He'll say the same thing. This is not going to fix your problem. You got other major problems. Sure, Ben can come in there and maybe right the ship a little bit with the offense, help Caleb along, do some different things, maybe, like develop a game plan for the players there that actually can work, and help, Caleb do his thing. That's all very possible. And Ben is a great offensive mind, but like you kind of alluded to, I have an overall question that could be a question for a totally different podcast episode on its own. But like, just because a offensive coordinator is good at what he does, it doesn't make him a head coach necessarily. And I think like Ben, I'm sure he's a great offensive coordinator.
You are on it.
I know, and I realize for all those people like that, this is the chain of events. Like you work your way up the coaching ladder this way. A lot of head coaches start off as coordinators, or that's the last step, right? So that's the normal chain. But that doesn't mean you're always qualified to be the head coach. Head coaching to me is like herding cats, organizing people, checking people's expectations and managing people. All that was people, not even football. So,
Love it,
great
Tay.
if,
Love that. Great.
so that I just don't like see how that necessarily can translate instantly to, you're going to be good, you're going to be a good head coach just because you were a great offensive coordinator over here on X team. I don't know. Good luck with that. That doesn't always translate. And I think this is a prime example of what that will be. And, we could be wrong, but probably not. So,
I mean, Tay, you're right. He's a super talented guy, but you said all those things. There's so much to the actual position. Remember, Dan Campbell, he wasn't the offensive coordinator. He wasn't the defensive coordinator. Now he's lost both.
yep.
And the Lions, they have their own issues now in the offseason with not only replacing those two, but other guys are going to leave with them. And Dan's got to rebuild that around himself. And that's a hard thing. And he's done it now for a number of years. Look at Matt LaFleur. I think he's still working on that. I don't think he's got that part fully figured out. I really don't.
Yep.
You're talking about it's people. It's a people business, just like any business being successful. And it is like herding cats. And where has Matt hit his sweet spot yet? I'm not sure, but he survived 5 years. And by the way, during that time, went 11-1 against the Bears. So, let's see if Ben Johnson can make it even a couple years and get some wins against the Packers. I mean, this is a tough thing to do in a tough business in the NFL. And being a successful head coach is not easy business as one of 32.
So that's the big news. They got their man. And then we learn about an extension up there for Kevin O'Connell in the Vikings land, right?
Well deserved, yeah.
And then, so I guess he'll be around. But like we all predicted, like you and I predicted early in the season, we knew that the Vikings were basically frauds and they weren't going to go anywhere, and they didn't. So now they have all those problems we talked about. Maybe the quarterback problem, that's all going to still be there. They figure that out. And they still haven't figured out how to go the extra mile, finish the playoffs strong, even get to a Super Bowl in the last 30 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They've never won one, Tay, in the Super Bowl era. And we talked about last week, the Packers 32 with 14% of players that are going to free agency playing snaps this year, and the Vikings number 1 with over 56%. They have some good cap space, but they got a lot of things to figure out in Minnesota. And yes, Kevin O'Connell has, 2 times in 3 years made the playoffs, and he certainly proved himself as a successful offensive-minded coach. He's very good. But they're going to have things that they need to get figured out in Minnesota as well, especially that quarterback position. What's this going to look like with them in 2025? So yeah. You're right. This is not an easy business, man, and well-earned extension. But I mean, we'll see where all the chips fall, at the end of the day, and our friends over at, the Lion, the Cub, man, I'm sure they're feeling pretty dejected after that divisional round loss, which was a tough thing. And now they're dealing with, they probably have some not good feels about the way that Ben Johnson left. I know it was that one was acrimonious a little bit with how he left the building and how he went about it. And obviously Aaron Glenn seems to have done it better to ingratiate himself to the fans. But, that kind of brings us to another thing, kind of full circle back to the weekend, Tay, divisional round. One thing that I found kind of annoying was the whole Kurt Warner thing. I talked to you about it yesterday before we went on. I just wanted to bring it up. Kurt Warner was talking about these weather conditions that the divisional round had in some of these cities. And basically, he wants to see the best team advance based on, no weather factors. He doesn't think like his team couldn't have, they couldn't go out and play in the weather. New England, as he says in his take, could come to them. But he couldn't go simulate that. And I found the whole thing just like, really, do you want this to be an arena league now, Kurt? Like, it's a disservice to the whole game of the NFL, what it was built on, these muddy fields, these things, these championship games, Lombardi's only lost in the playoffs to the Eagles years ago, and I think it was 1961. You get these just grind them up, or the Ice Bowl. Like, football's always been a game of elements and weather. And guess what, Kurt? If your teams weren't good enough then, too bad. Maybe you had to go somewhere else and not play in your comfy dome. And if you wanted it to be in your dome, maybe get the first seed and everybody's got to come to you. I just found it was to me, the most annoying thing a divisional round weekend, because when I looked at every one of those games, it didn't come down to weather at all, Tay. You know what it came down to? Turnovers.
Yep.
Simply that.
Yeah.
If I'm a Ravens fan, Tay, man, they have had we've had some really tough losses as Packer fans, the last 15, 20 years. But the Ravens in the last 6, 7 years, oof. This is a team right there with a 3-time MVP quarterback that just in the wrong moments, man. That Mark Andrews stuff, the one he fumbles in the middle of the field, and then obviously the 2-point, that's hard. It's really hard, but that's what it comes down to. The turnovers, Green Bay at Philly, 4 turnovers. They were in that game most of the game, and they played an awful game by Packer grades that game, Tay. I think it was Jordan Love's worst game of the year, and a number of other prominent Packers. And that was a playoff game that they were in down 6, I think still in the early fourth quarter. So it wasn't about weather in any of these situations. It's about, doing what you need to do and not turn the ball over. And oftentimes you're going to move on in advance. And if you don't, you make mistakes, you lose.
Yeah.
So that whole thing with Kurt just rubbed me the wrong way. I guess as a Packer fan, in a few years, we know Chicago is going to have a dome, and Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota are all going to be domed, and we're going to still be playing outdoor football here. But it lends itself back over 100 years at that point, and you're like, that's what football is built on. Guys just playing in the dirt and having fun outside, regardless of the weather conditions. Kurt, sorry, but you're a Hall of Famer, Kurt, but that was a not Hall of Fame take on the game of football. That's why I wanted to bring that one up today.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, Warner is used to playing in the dome. That's what he did. That's where he was claimed to fame, was
the greatest show on turf.
Greatest show on turf, right? So it's like, yeah, of course you're going to say that, because that's what you like. That's what made you famous. That's how you got your dough.
When you were only good, when you could play in simulated conditions inside something with a dome. Granted, Arizona has grass, but that thing's closed all the time. So no weather's going to affect it.
Yeah, and what is he trying to really insinuate? You want to start sterilizing the game and having every game inside on turf where there's no weather conditions. I mean, this game was built on outdoor play, and whatever conditions were out there, exclusive or not have lightning. Maybe you have to call the game for lightning. But otherwise, you're playing, right? And that was kind of what it was built on. And I don't think anybody would agree with him and make it, all indoors anymore. So yeah,
what about Mike Vick, Tay, and the Atlanta Falcons in 2001? The Packers have never lost outside at home, and guess what? A turf team comes up from a dome in the South and beats the Packers at their own game for their first loss in Green Bay in playoff history. And obviously the Vikings go on to beat them the year after that for their second loss in postseason history at home. So I just found the whole thing to be just, sometimes the best thoughts are left unsaid, Tay. And Kurt should have maybe kept his mouth shut.
Yeah, I think you're right. But then, we wouldn't have been able to rant about it ourselves.
Yeah. I hear you.
All right, Ren. Well, moving along here, what else is on your list for today?
Well, really, Tay, the one big thing.
Ren's list. Ren's list from last week.
The 2025 Packer free agents day.
Dun, dun, dun.
We did not get to hit it, and what's important, what's not. Mostly, again, we brought it up again in this episode, or at least I did again. Only 14% of Packer snaps went to guys who are unrestricted free agents here in 2025. So that's great. There's not a lot to worry about today. I'm going to read down the list.
Yeah.
And you kind of tell me a guy or two you'd like to see back, but really there's not a lot of concern here, Tay. So we have, obviously, I know you're one of the captains of the fan club. That would be center Josh Myers as an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
Isaiah McDuffie, inside linebacker, is an unrestricted free agent. Eric Stokes, unrestricted free agent. TJ Slayton, probably one of their best, let me remind you before we get there, run defenders all year. So still has a lot of room to improve, but very good run defender, unrestricted free agent. Corey Ballantyne, kind of, one of our backup cornerbacks in a very light room at the moment, unrestricted free agent. Andre Dillard, I don't think he was activated for a single game this year, Tay. They brought him in
Zero.
as a free agent. He's unrestricted. Robert Rochelle, another one of those cornerbacks, one of our special teams / depth guys. He's an unrestricted free agent. Tyler Davis, the tight end, and AJ Dillon, Tay. Dillon,
the mayor.
Unrestricted free agent.
The mayor.
Those are your unrestricted free agents. Now, here are guys. Some people just go look at Packer free agents and not really get into it, and you're like, oh God, more of these are like oh no, like I'm worried. And that would be Bo Melton, Emmanuel Wilson, Danny Whelan, Aaron Mosby, Zane Anderson, and Kadeem Telfort. Yes, that same Kadeem Telfort that had to come in and play some time in replace of Elton Jenkins, as we know, who didn't have his best effort in that Eagles game. But those are all IRFAs, Tay. So those are exclusive rights free agents. So all that means, again, is the Packers have to make them an offer, and they can either essentially not play football anymore or accept the offer and play football. That's how that works. So Danny Whelan will be back. Emmanuel Wilson will be back. Bo Melton will be back. Aaron Mosby will be back. We'll see what they do with Zane Anderson. I would think they'll make him an offer. And Kadeem Telfort, too, will also be made an offer. So all those IRFAs, they're going to get an offer, and they're going to be back. So they're not even folks to worry about. But again, going back to Josh, Isaiah, Stokes, Slayton, Brandon McManus is one I missed in there as an unrestricted free agent. Corey Ballantyne, Dillard, Rochelle, Tyler Davis, and AJ Dillon. Tay. Dylan, where are your concerns? What would you like to see, if anything, done with any of those unrestricted free agents?
I can simplify it like this. You sign McManus, you need a kicker. Don't mess around with it. You got something good. Keep it going until he fails. All the other ones, honestly, are in positions on our team that aren't necessarily first string. You've had depth problems at those positions already, so you're probably already thinking about what you're going to do there anyway. So honestly, if all those guys were let go, I don't think it would hurt us at all. There are a few that I kind of like. Like, I do like, I don't know why I'm saying this. I don't mind if Eric Stokes comes back. It's got to be maybe on a lesser deal. If he's just back for a roster spot at a really cheap deal, bring him back. I mean, the dude didn't play for a long time, and maybe he still got a little left in the tank. Corey Ballantyne, I don't know. I think Valentine's better than him. Let him go. Josh Myers actually is the other one. Sorry. Bring Josh back, but not expensive, right? If you can get him back and say, like, well, no one's going to want you anyway. Why don't you just stay here? Then maybe. But if you have to get rid of Josh Myers, because he's going to, get more money somewhere else, you just kind of put yourself in either a replacement mode and you look for somewhere in free agency. I don't know if there's anyone in the draft for that, but you have backups on your roster already that can play center. You just work something out if you have to. But otherwise, I don't know. Give it a shot. Give him a I don't know, not a veteran's minimum, but a good enough deal where he'll take it. I think he's good enough for us. I think I've explained that in the last couple episodes. So, Josh Myers, yes. Guys like Eric Wilson, Robert Rochelle, and TJ Slayton too. I would like back. Isaiah McDuffie, yeah, they're all serviceable and stuff, but is there someone else out there that's better? Probably. Someone that can fit in better? Possibly. I just think you take a chance and not worry about it. That's my take.
Right. I mean, for me, we'll see what happens with Josh. I mean, I think he had his best year. I don't think it's amazing. Um, I think you got to have TJ Slayton back if you can. You need those big bodies in the middle. I know, obviously, we haven't talked about it, but Jason Rebrovich was fired last week.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
they really, per Goody's season ending presser, not happy with the D line production, but believes a lot of that can be improved simply by, you know, bringing in a better coach, because they just didn't get pressure with that front four. And obviously, they switched the 4-3. They kept Jason around. He's from the Berry tree. He was there with Joe. It was one of
Yeah.
the holdovers they had from the previous defensive coaching staff administration. So they brought in quality candidates. I don't think there's a reason for us to talk about any of them at this point. They brought in three, and they're all veteran guys. So they all have very good experience. So I think any of the three guys that are currently looking at
Well, that
will
one guy
be
that they had from the Bucks they were interviewing, I think he's gonna go to the Lions.
yeah, that could
Rogers
be
guy.
quite possibly, and he may get a better title there. I know they're bringing in one of Salah's guys from the Jets. You said the Bucks guy, and I believe the Bears D
Oh
line.
yeah.
Obviously, the Bears previous coordinator also gone, is they're bringing in everybody new there as well. So again, we'll see. I think they're going to end up with a good candidate that's a longtime vet, and they believe, hey, we just switched to a 4-3. We can get more out of these guys from just a standard 4-man rush. Brian said it wasn't wholly important to bring in more bodies at that position, but always edge rushers are at a premium. Paraphrasing some of his season-ending presser, so he still knows like they got to get better there, and how they do that, he's not sure. Going back to the free agency piece, obviously, when you look at that thing, you mentioned Stokes. I don't see why they'd bring Stokes back. Valentine likely could not be back, along with Rochelle. So he talked about kind of rebuilding that room, a la the safeties, like we talked about. There's a lot to be done there. They have to, make some moves and do some things to rebuild it. And I don't think he's afraid any more than he was last year, like we talked about with the safeties and the band-aids. And basically, the cornerbacks are the band-aids this year. They really got to do some work. He talked about Jair, but he didn't say like, you know, overwhelmingly positive things about Jair like he did with, speaking of free agents, Tay, we'll talk about the notable 2026 guys, because they got to make by May 1st a decision on Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt. And he was much more, when we're talking about throwing out flowery adjectives to describe good football play, he thought obviously Quay Walker had his best year as a pro, and it takes time at that position. And I agree with him a little bit. It does. But Quay Walker, Tay, 16.06 million. Devontae Wyatt, 13.09 in that, both those options. And you got to make that decision by May 1st. What do you say when you see those numbers?
I say hell no. Not for what those two guys have done for us lately. So I was low on Quay at the beginning of the year. I still continue to believe that. Wyatt, I think he's okay. He's flashes at points, but it's not the time to give those two their fifth year option and give them a bunch of money just to secure that extra year. I just don't like that. I think you could either replace them or make them really work for a contract extension. But you might see these guys fail even more or fall even more in production, and then what? And then they'll be a free agent, and they just go get a small deal somewhere. So I'm not impressed with either of those two enough to give them that fifth year option. How about you?
Tay, wrapping up $30 million and two guys who have flashed good play in 2024, their best play so far. No, that's not worth $30 million. Again, we'll see what happens with both of them. But I would be shocked knowing what they learned, obviously, when they did extend Savage and it didn't work out. So I think that would be the wrong move with both those guys.
Yeah. I think Brian's when he talked about Jair, he was like, "Yeah, communication's open with Jair."
We still
And
think
it's
he's a
like,
really great player.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like, okay,
it's like
yeah,
that's what he said about
translation.
David Bakhtiari, Tay.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
same kind
exactly.
of thing. He's
Like,
a
yeah,
great
yeah,
player.
we're talking to him. We're talking to him. Don't worry. We're communicating. It's like, yeah, you're communicating that you don't want to do anything with each other. So it's like that doesn't mean anything, you know?
No,
So,
absolutely not.
Jair is not going to be here.
No.
It's
So
just
we didn't include them, and I don't think they are either.
no.
So everyone's got some work to do, Tay. But before we get there, just a couple notables, Tay, 2026. Because I just walked through guys, Tay, that it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't for 2025. But the IRFAs are all coming back. Those are the ones that matter. But notables in 26, we just talked about Quay and Devontae, but Christian Watson, Malik Willis, Sean Ryan, Matt Orzich, the long snapper, Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, Dontavian Wicks, JJ Enigbare, Sean Clifford, Rasheed Walker, Malik Heath, and Brenton Cox. That's a list, Tay.
Yeah.
And to highlight there, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers in there. And then we've got, when we talk about Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, you've got 3 prominent guys on your offensive line. So I think there's some, like we were talking about previous episodes, some work to be done to at least get one of those, if not 2 of those offensive linemen extended somewhere in the next 16 months so that they're not having to worry about a whole lot there, because they're already, I think that's a position in the draft. Again, they're going to have to, in the first 5 rounds, really, spend some capital. So that's a lot more to deal with, no doubt.
Yeah, but I love the fact that you got 2 years to figure that out. They know it. They're preparing for it. They're thinking about it. So it's better that than under the gun for with only 1 year on the clock. So I'm not too worried. But you're right. It's good to look at that and say, yeah, you got to look forward here, because when you're right, when you look at this year, all those guys. Worst case scenario, you don't bring any of those UFAs back, and you're like, okay, we'll figure something out. We got this. We'll plug some holes. Free agency, draft, whatever. So I think you're okay if you don't have any of them back. What do you think about Brandon McManus? I mean, really.
I think he's going to be 34 in July, Tay. I think you got to try to get a 2-3 year deal done with a guy. Yep.
Yeah.
Just get it sewed up and not have to worry about that. They had too much of the interest, too much of what they were focusing on, even as a team, was going to the kicker the last few weeks of training camp and then into the first few weeks of the regular season. So let's focus on more important things when you can lock a guy in that has now been with your team a little while. He's been successful. Get it done.
Well, as Packer fans, there's a few things we can look forward to, Ren, and those are some dates on the NFL schedule. The first one I'd like to highlight is February 18th, the start of being able to put a franchise tag on any players by the teams. That runs until March 4th. Rarely do the Packers ever have to deal with a franchise tag. And I think that's good business on the Packers' part that they don't have to. So this year's no different. We're never going to see that for miles. But moving on to February 24th through March. Wow, if I can speak. February 24th through March 3rd is the scouting combine in Indianapolis, Indiana. Ren, are we going to that?
We're not. We do not have our placards. It's not. Rob has not invited us.
Yeah.
We're not going to be bunkmates that weekend in the city of Indianapolis today. Not this year.
Yeah. March 10th, and for the next 2 days after, is the legal tampering phase that begins for free agency. And then on March 12th is the beginning of free agency and the beginning of the new league year that begins at 4 p.m. Then we got March 30th through April 2nd is the annual meeting in Palm Beach, Florida, Ren. That's usually
we get those pictures, all the GMs together.
Yep.
They're all wearing terrible shirts. They don't. Half of them don't know how to dress. You got a couple swole guys. You get a couple guys maybe, spend the off season, at the local local fast food shop.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a little bit of everything in there. So it's always good for the GM picture for sure.
And historically, this is the time when Gutekunst gets the mic shoved in his face. What are you doing about Aaron Rodgers? What's going on with Aaron Rodgers? And he's like, God, lay off. So
Yeah, I think Big Lair was down there. The Rock was down there for one of those. Like, what are you doing down there, Rock? Did somebody just like, you can go take a vacay down to Phoenix? He's like, yes, I can. I will go ask Goot a question.
Yeah.
While wearing shorts.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, so this, I think in years past for the Packers has been, an eventful day or a couple of days where the media can ask GM questions. I mean, we don't get a lot out of Brian ever. He's very close to the vest. He's probably the most close to the vest guy talking about his own team that I've ever heard talk ever.
Well, he's slightly better than his predecessor. That's who he was taught by, Tay. He was taught by Ted, who literally said nothing. and so literally didn't even do those kind of things. He wouldn't. He just nope.
No, yeah.
Fade into the background. You hear Ted Thompson speak like one day a year. That was at the when they drafted guys, and that was it. Gone.
So that's I don't know what information you will see and get during that weekend, but probably not much. And then the big one, the one everyone's been waiting for, the one that all Packers fans should be caring about anyway. There is no dates after this. It's April 24th to the 26th, the NFL draft in Green Bay. All of our plans, all of our futures have coalesced into this one point in the time-space continuum. We're all going to be there. We're all going to be watching this. We get the 23rd pick in the NFL draft. We're probably trading down.
Trading out, Tay. Trading out.
No, yep. But that's really the only one I'm going to stop here with. Once we get to that point, we'll refresh you on some dates. But for now, this is where everyone should be looking forward to and gearing up for.
100%, Tay. That's why, honestly, I'm more of a day two, Friday night kind of guy. It's Friday night lights, right? But we know they're going to be picks. It's going to be fun. I think there's going to be a really big contingent of folks from Nashville coming up because the Tennessee Titans, only about a 6, 7, 8 hour drive away, and they have the number one pick. So there are going to be a lot of Tennessee fans probably booking time in Green Bay and probably already have for the draft. No doubt about that. They're going to come up and look for a good time. So we'll see how the Tennessee folk mixes into Green Bay. I think that one will go over pretty well, Tay. But before I leave, do you have anything else? I wanted to drop a little bit more knowledge on the universe before I go.
Just a couple housekeeping things. I'll be gone next week, so I think we're going to take a week off here in Packers off season. So in the meantime, just continue to follow us and support us. We would greatly appreciate it. And send us some questions if you want. We always look for topics and for some interaction with our peeps out there. So keep it coming. We appreciate it very much. Other than that, Ren, thanks for joining me. And everyone out in Packer Universe, we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Absolutely, Tay. And before I go, I wanted to just give a personal shout out, and it's for the man, if there was a Mount Rushmore of Wisconsin, the number one sports entity of our state. We talk about so many things, football here, but for me is Bob Uecker, and lost Bob last Thursday, the day after we last recorded. It's still a little hard for me. Bob Uecker was, throughout my life and a lot of Wisconsinites out there, he was there. He's the constant for our entire lifetime. He's been and was the Brewer radio play-by-play broadcaster before I was even born. And I'm nearing age 50 today. Not quite there yet. Got a few years. A few means 30, folks. But that said, he's been the sound of summer when I was 8, when I was 28, when I was 39, and now when I'm 47. I listened to his last radio call live. There is not one sports entity that will ever be as great in my mind as that man. So until episode 303 on the Pup List.